Hey, welcome to the Sport ATV Buyer's Guide. I try to make my videos so that you don't necessarily have to watch them to get the content. So I like to make them so that you can put in some headphones and you can go about your day. And this is going to be more about me talking than putting images up on the screen and whatnot. You'll notice that in all my videos. I don't really put up the specs of the machine and all that different stuff. That's not really what I'm here to do. I'm here to make sure that I answer questions that you're not going to find in other reviews, and I try to throw in some safety. And I want you to keep in mind that I've basically been riding and racing my entire life since a child, and I've either rode or owned or played around on just about all the four-wheelers and dirt bikes that there are. So I want you to keep that in mind, that I'm going by a lot of different things, not just the specs of the machine. We're not buying a VCR or computer here. And VCR, you know what I mean, a piece of electronics. All right, so anyway, I want to go over a couple quick safety things. I know this is boring, but this is going to be more for people looking to buy machines for their child or their young adult, or whatever you want to say. If you don't know a whole lot about sport quads, the number one thing that I'm going to recommend for everybody to do as soon as you get a sport quad for your child, aside from getting a helmet, is going to be changing the rear tires. Now this is a big safety thing, guys. I'm going to flip the camera around. No, it won't let me. Okay, see these tires right here? Those are a smaller diameter than stock tire. Okay. Now, it's called a hole shot. Now that's the tread pattern design, but what you're looking for is to get rid of those balloon tires on the back of the quad. It doesn't matter if it's a 50cc quad, a 90, a 200, a 450, it doesn't matter what it is. But if you change out the rear tires from stock and put a smaller diameter tire on the back, it's going to dramatically increase the handling. And from a safety point of view, I just think it's a must, especially if you're going to have a kid on there. Or it's something that all of us guys do racing, is we put a different, we all run different tires depending on where we're at, but nobody runs a balloon tire. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that nobody runs the stock tire. And I know I see quads all the time, and I see kids out riding machines on the trails, and they have a stock tire, and they're running the OEM tires, and it's very dangerous. And I think that that's the number one thing that you want to invest in for your kid. And basically that's all I'm going to touch on safety wise. I hope I didn't lose a whole bunch of people with that, but I just want people to understand that all the machines just about come with oversized tires, in my opinion. I think they do that for the specs, to say it's got X amount of ground clearance and whatnot, so it's kind of like a one of those things. But it's real important that you guys know that if you're not familiar with sport quads. So enough about that. I'm going to talk about what kind of sport quad you should get. Well, when we're talking about the child sport quad, those are all pretty much very reliable, and they don't need a whole lot of maintenance besides a DRR, which is a racing unit. So anybody that's buying those, they're not watching this video anyway. So there's a lot of sport quads out there, and you have to really need to ask yourself, do you really need a 450? Do you really need that kind of maintenance? I want you to understand that the 450 bike is an amazing piece of equipment, and it can be kept to run near factory conditions if you keep everything on it completely stock, the exhaust, everything like that. It won't get that wrapped up, you know, it won't become what I call ragged out. But you need to really remember, the more stuff that you put on the 450s, the more vibrations you're going to feel. And I just want you to keep that in mind. When they're brand new, they're really smooth. That's the smoothest they're going to be. As they break in, then they get, you know, some of us call them a rattle trap. You know, I can almost hear it. And when they start getting real bad, that's when they need, you know, a new top end. I'm not knocking the 450s. I'm not trying to talk you out of them. I just want you to understand that what you're getting into. So as far as 450s go, there's a bunch of different versions, and basically you can have your pick of the rainbow on colors and whatnot. But in my opinion, the Can-Am and the KTM and the Honda 450 and the Z400 and 400EX are going to be some of the best woods racing quads available. That being said, the Can-Am, it doesn't really necessarily, to me, feel anything like the Yamaha or the Honda. It's a completely different way the power comes on it. Power comes on low. It doesn't have an incredible, it seems like it's all grunt, which is perfect for the woods. It's just a torque monster, and I really like that about the Can-Am. It has a great engine. Now, as far as reliability on the Can-Am, I got mixed emotions on that, but you know, as far as the best woods racing machine, I think that Can-Am is pretty hard to beat. Some will, you know, if you're really comfortable, you know, and you're trying to, you know, on a Yamaha or something like that, then yeah, you might be faster on a Yamaha. But I don't pick preferences, you know, I don't pick brands. I go by the machines, and I go by what I feel when I'm riding them. And out of the box, I feel like the Can-Am 450 is the best woods racing quad. Second to that would probably be that KTM. The KTM might even be better. It's pretty bad. The 525 KTM is mean. It's got some serious power. It does feel big. It feels bigger than the Can-Am. You know, both of these, all these 450 models are going to require really good clutch control, or you're going to want to get a rekluse clutch. Now for me, if I'm being more of a two-stroke background, the high-performance 450s, it doesn't matter if it's a dirt bike or a quad, three-wheeler, whatever, all the high-performance 450s, to me, I stall them, and I don't stall them like when I'm trying to take off. It's like obstacles in the woods, really weird scenarios that they stall on me. Like if I'm going into a corner and it seems like you know, you really got to roll on the gas. You got to keep. It's a different riding technique, and you know, I feel like the rekluse clutch is just an amazing piece of technology. I mean, talk about easy to ride. You put I feel like it takes a lot of the skill out of it, you know, as far as racing goes, because you can basically just now hold the bike wide open everywhere, and just, you don't have to use the clutch at all. You just downshift, upshift, and it's great. And it keeps you from stalling out. You can just let go of the clutch in any gear. You know, that really, to me, I feel like that's a must for any 450 race quad. I feel like you have to get a rekluse. It's the same with the 450 race bike, unless you're doing supermoto, which even then I think it'd be cool to have it. But yeah, the rekluse is a big thing that you need to think about, because that's going to be, you know, if you go the 450 route and you don't have the money set aside for a rekluse, or it doesn't come already on the machine, you need to initiate and prepare for that, or anticipate and prepare for that mod, because you're going to want it. It's going to be more important than anything aside from changing out those rear tires. That being said, like I said, the Can-Am and the Honda and the Z400 and the 400EX, those are great quads. They're the best quad, easiest quad to wheelie. They're probably some of the easiest to get parts for. It's one of the cheapest. It's one of the most reliable. Disadvantages to those two quads, they feel a little underpowered. They're a little heavy for what they are, but they have a great maintenance schedule. And anytime you get anytime you go between a racing four-wheeler and one of these higher maintenance or lower maintenance machines, you're going to gain weight. It's just the nature of the game. You know, if I had to choose between a Z400 or a 400EX, being that I rode both, the Z400 is smoother. It does rev out a little higher. I feel like the 400EX does wheelies better. They're both great quads. They both can be really well modded out. It'd be a tough decision. I have a Kawasaki KLX 400. It uses the same motor as the Z400. Very reliable motor. You know, Kawasaki, Artic and Suzuki, I guess, all went together on building the exact same four-wheeler, different colored plastics. And it's a great machine, and you should really look at it. It's really smooth. You know, it doesn't really do any particular thing great except for trail riding. But what else I mean, it's not necessarily a racing four-wheeler. All right, it was when it came out. It was the baddest thing you could get. They can be highly souped up, but it's not a 450. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's a great beginner quad. You know, that's something I'm going to touch on. If you're looking to get your child a machine, and let's say they're between 13 and 15, be careful getting them a 450 or a Raptor 700. Those quads are extremely fast, and they could get your child seriously injured or killed if they don't have previous racing experience, especially the 450s. They will do a wheelie in 5th gear, and they go almost 80 miles an hour from the bone stock from the factory. So when you keep that in mind, you know, they're very powerful machines, and it's safety something I want you to consider. My thoughts on the Raptor 700. I feel like it's super reliable. It has its niche. I think that, you know, that's another thing that you guys want to keep in mind, that there's a bike for everybody. And if you are my size, you don't need a Raptor 700. It's not faster than a 450. It's not. And even, I mean, unless you do every single mod that you can do engine-wise to the Raptor 700, that's the only way it's going to be faster than a 450. And it's still going to be heavier, and it's still not going to handle as good. And then once you soup up the Honda, or the 450, now it's blowing you away. So the KT or the Raptor's a great quad for like somebody that wants to haul their girlfriend around. It's like a campsite quad, but you don't want a big 4x4. You know what I mean? It has its spot, you know, especially if you're 250 pounds. You're gonna have to get the Raptor. Sorry guys, anyone over 250 pounds, you're pretty much going to be limited to the Raptor, the DS650, you know, maybe the Z400 and the 400EX. Most of the sport quads, the max weight limit's like 250 pounds. So if you're at the max weight limit, you're going to start to have to look at redoing the suspension because you're going to be bottomed out just sitting on the machine. They have really soft suspension. Major differences between your, like the Honda 450 and the YFZ, those bikes vibrate, and the Z400 and the 400EX, they don't. So I want you to remember, like, if you're not going to be racing, do you really need the 450? So yeah, they're cool, they're fun, they're awesome. They're kind of like the sport bike of the sport quads. You know what I mean? They're the baddest of the bad. Same with the Banshee. It's like, it's thrills and chills, man. But the Raptor and the other quads have the ability to give you thrills, but they don't require the oil changes and the maintenance and stuff like that. The older, the little blasters are super reliable. If you're a smaller rider looking for a wife for your bike, a bike for your wife, or you're looking for a machine for your son or daughter, I highly suggest the Yamaha Blaster. That was my very first quad growing up. What a great machine. I mean, especially if you can get one that has hydraulic brakes on it. That was the one update that machine really needed. But that's a great beginner quad. It's super reliable. I'd say it's as reliable as the 400EX or Z400. Plus it's cheap. I mean, when it does break, it's a lot cheaper to repair a blaster than it is any of the 4-strokes. It's a lot cheaper, and you don't have any valve adjustments or anything. You just change the oil and go, and change out clutches. So you're gonna have to keep that in mind, maintenance and different things like that. The blaster also doesn't vibrate. It has a counterbalancer. Any of this, most of the sports quads do have counterbalancers, but the YFZ vibrates the most. I mean, the fuel injected one isn't near as harsh, but they do vibrate a lot harder than the rest of them, especially in the upper RPM range. Even compared to a Banshee, the Banshee's a lot smoother than a 450. It's hard work. You can ride a Banshee or a 450 so hard, and it starts to get hard to hold on. So anyway, what else would you like to know about sports quads? There's a couple, like, let's call them sports quads, but they're not, but they are. Like, Kawasaki made something called the KXF 700. It's a fully automatic 2-wheel drive sport quad, very similar to a Polaris. Do not get that for your kid. It is way too damn heavy and fast. It's got a V-twin 700cc engine. It weighs like 400 pounds. It's like a big 4x4 quad that's a little bit lighter, and it's only 2-wheel drive. So it can do wheelies, but it's not. It's for a bigger guy that doesn't want to shift. I mean, could you woods race it? Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you could probably woods race it, and you wouldn't get as tired as much, and it's still, you could race in the open class, It doesn't vibrate, I can tell you that, but it's heavy. It's, and I think a sport quad, the definition of a sport quad should mean it's light, and, the Raptor feels like, I feel like there should be something called the Enduro quad, and I think the sport quad should be limited to the extreme high performance end, and then you should have the Enduro quads, and then you should have the kids quads, and that's just, and then the 4x4s, because some of these quads that are passed off as sport quads, in my opinion, they're more of a enduro or dual sport quad. So that's really important. You need to figure out is Do you want a dual sport quad, or do you want a racing quad? And if you're going to get a racing quad, get the Yamaha for motocross. That is going to be the best one in my opinion for motocross, even though it's not the fastest in the whole shots. But it is, it does have the best geometry and design right now, the best factory support. I mean, it just is what it is. You know, I do not have brand loyalty. I've rode all the machines. You know, we got Hondas, we got Kawasaki, Suzukis, we got a Chinese Apollo thing back there, Hondas. You know, I don't choose any particular bike, guys. So I've left out a bunch of sport quads. You know, I've left out some of the Polarises and some of the other machines, the Warrior. Again, I feel like that's a dual sport quad. That's what you need to determine. You need to find out, are you going to go racing? If you're not going to go racing, then you need to look at some of the more reliable quads, because I've blown up those racing quads, guys, and it sucks. I mean, imagine buying a brand new four-wheeler and doing all the maintenance like they tell you to, and then it blows up because you ride it too hard. And it was just really disappointing when you're down and then you have to spend $1,000 getting your engine rebuild and parts. Four strokes are very expensive, those 450s to replace parts on. And you know, you got valves and chains and cams, and every little piece just gets you, man. It just, and it's very painful to have to spend all that money and then know you're riding essentially a ticking time bomb. It's not a matter of if it's going to blow, it's when it's going to blow. And what is it going to take out this time? Is it going to be the crank? Am I going to have to get am I going to blow the cases out this time and have to get a whole damn new engine? Am I going to take the gears out? I mean, because when these 450s blow, it's catastrophic. Like, everything breaks. Like, the chain, the chain could break and take out everything on a 450. I've seen it all the time where the chain wraps up, and it doesn't seem to be a solution for that. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of chain guard you got or what you're doing, and once that chain wraps up around that sprocket, you're done, man. And you don't see that on the other quads because they just don't put out the power to snap a chain. You know what I mean? They don't wear chains out like a 450. They're not as high strung, and you got all that traction back there, and it's just really expensive sport. So if you're on the fence between, a Z400 and a Raptor and a YFZ, and you're not going to be racing, you might want to look at that. I think they got a YFZ X. I think it might have a little bit more toned down cam and electric start and reverse and a steel frame. That one might be a little bit more reliable, but it's still so expensive. And when stuff breaks, it's not cheap to repair. And that's why I'm not going to talk about like the Suzuki and the Kawasaki two-stroke sport quads, because those are getting harder to find, and the Banshee isn't super reliable, and it's pretty expensive. But the Honda 250R, and I'm telling you guys, it's a great machine, because it's like an enduro quad like the Z400 in reliability and stock trim, but it can also, you do a couple mods to it, and now it's like a full-blown race bike, and it's still got some pretty good reliability. And if it blows up, it's not that expensive for parts like a 450 is. the only disadvantage to the 250R compared to the 450, it just doesn't have that the torque of a 450. It doesn't do fifth gear wheelies and stuff, you know. It'll do wheelies in third, but you know, even with a big bore kit, I don't think it's going to do fourth and fifth gear wheelies like the 450s do. It's a different type of power. It's got a lighter, it has a really light flywheel, so it spins, you know, instead of putting the power down. But it's fun to ride, and it's super reliable, and it's a lot cheaper than the 450. So, you know, when you look in my garage, it's 250Rs. You know, I'm running the 250R 3-wheeler, the 250R quad. We got another one of my buddy's customer bike in here. He's running a 250R. You know, I'm not sitting here trying to be a 250R fanboy, but that's basically what I am, and I'll never get rid of my 250R, man. There's downsides to the 250R. They're getting harder to find. Parts are becoming more expensive for the stock OEM parts, but it's still a phenomenal machine. You know, one of the things to look for when you're buying these quads is that you need to look at the frame, make sure that the frame isn't cracked or have any been repaired. It is a common practice to gusset the frame, where we add additional pieces of metal in the frame to stiffen it. But if you can get an unmolested, you know, nice frame that doesn't have stuff done to it, that's what you're looking for. And you're looking for the 88 or 89 model. They made more 86s than anything. It's not a bad machine, but the 87 had a little bit more improved motor, and the 88 and 89 had a completely redesigned chassis, plastic bodywork, engine, everything. It was considered the best four-wheeler of all time. It is a great machine. At one time, I had that and a 400EX, and I had a racing Woods Racing 250R. When the Woods Racing 250R was tuned, it was like a 500EX. It would do wheelies, it put the torque down, it just didn't rev out as high. You know, it was that's what makes the 250R so cool, guys, is the ability to tune it. And by putting, you know, different pipes on it, totally changes the bike and the way it feels. And same with cylinder kits. If you have any questions, please feel free to get a hold of me. If you're looking to ride or looking to for some tips, or you know, maybe you want to go racing for a weekend, or maybe you want to know more about flat track racing or motocross racing, I'm gonna stay tuned to the channel. I'm gonna be putting up more and more information as I can, and you know, I'm always looking for new people to ride with, so feel free to contact me. I live in the Ohio region. I'm always looking for people to ride with. I don't have a problem, you know, hosting a trail ride or a get-together. You know, maybe you're wanting to know more about three-wheelers or whatever, or maybe you're wanting to know more about dirt bikes. Let me know, and I'll put up videos on whatever particular thing that you're looking to know about. And again, I'm not looking for money here, guys, or anything like that. I'm just looking for new friends. I'm outreaching into the community. I'm trying to make the sport grow, and I'm just trying to make it to where people can enjoy it. And I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I want to make sure that everybody understands, you know, perfectly clear about the tires and safety. You know, I always recommend that you get you a kill switch, that these tether kill switches, when that comes off, that kills the machine. That's great. That's great for, you know, you can hook that thing up to your waistband, and it's pretty stretchy, or you can add an extension, and now when your son's riding, if he gets too far away from you, now that pulls out and it kills the machine, and it's cheap. It's like 20 bucks. So it's real important that to have a fun time, that you pick the right bike. If you get a Banshee and you never rode four-wheelers before, you're not going to like it, because it's going to be too much bike and it's going to run weird. You're not going to know how to keep it in the power band, and you could potentially foul spark plugs and all that. So keep that in mind, that some of the bikes are easier to ride than others, and some are harder and some are heavier, but always choose the sport quad over a 4x4, because 4x4s are heavy and dangerous because they can flip on hills. And yeah, sport quads can flip too, but I've rode out a couple flips on a four-wheeler before, and I wouldn't want to ride out flipping a Grizzly or a Can-Am 1000. You know, I couldn't even imagine that quad coming down on you. It's just too damn heavy. I mean, it's got it always has its place, you know, but the thing I don't like about them things is if you're a hunter and you're going to get that big huge thing and you're going to put a deer on back, how in the hell are you going to go up any hills? I mean, I guess you're going to put it on the front rack. I mean, it just seems really dangerous. So side-by-sides, I think, is a lot better ticket to go than in those big 4x4 quads. I mean, they're cool for woods racing, I guess, if you're a bigger guy, but be ready to jump off of it. So anyway, guys, have a great day, and I hope I helped somewhat with your selection of your next sport quad. Have a great day.